What happens during SHTF in the city? For urban residents, the collapse of society will be brutal and unforgiving. Overcrowded streets, empty shelves, rising violence, and the constant noise of chaos. These are just some of the realities that city dwellers will face. In this video, we'll explore what SHTF will really be like in urban environments, building on our recent look at suburban survival during societal collapse. Welcome to Prepper's Paradigm, the channel dedicated to practical prepping and disaster preparedness. I'm Elijah. As always, I use a computer-generated voice because of an injury that affects my speech. But rest assured, the insights you'll hear are based on real-world experience. After our recent video on what SHTF will really be like in the suburbs, many of you asked for a follow-up exploring life in the city during societal collapse. That's what we're doing today. This isn't a how-to guide. It's a detailed look at what life will actually feel like when everything falls apart in an urban environment. We'll describe the overcrowding, the desperation for resources, and the psychological toll of constant danger. Cities are built on thin layers of order, and when those layers vanish, chaos takes over. We'll also look at comparisons with fiction and some of the more realistic elements in disaster movies and books like Cloverfield, I Am Legend, and The Purge. This video will paint a vivid picture of the realities urban dwellers may face after SHTF. Whether you live in a city or are just curious about the unique challenges of urban survival, this is the video you've been asking for. Let's dive into what SHTF will really be like in the city. When SHTF hits a city, the initial impact will be overwhelming. Unlike rural or suburban areas, where there's space to spread out and fewer people competing for resources, cities will amplify every challenge due to their high population density, turning even minor disruptions into full-blown crises. The first signs of collapse will likely be confusion and panic. Public transportation systems will grind to a halt, leaving commuters stranded or forcing them to navigate streets choked with gridlock traffic. Grocery stores and pharmacies will quickly be overrun, with shelves emptied within hours by frantic shoppers. Looting will inevitably follow, as desperation spreads and law enforcement struggles to maintain order. Fires may break out, and emergency services, overwhelmed by calls, will be unable to respond effectively. In cities, infrastructure failures will happen quickly. Power outages will leave skyscrapers dark and elevators useless. Without electricity, water pressure will drop, making it nearly impossible to access clean drinking water. Communication networks will fail, leaving people disconnected from news and loved ones. This lack of information will fuel paranoia, as rumors spread faster than facts. The noise of the city will transform into an overwhelming symphony of chaos. Sirens wailing, glass shattering, shouts of desperation, and the occasional boom of an explosion. Fires will burn unchecked, filling the air with smoke. The city's familiar skyline, once a symbol of civilization, will become a backdrop for fear and disorder. For those in the midst of it, the immediate aftermath of SHTF in the city will feel claustrophobic and inescapable. Streets will be crowded with panicked people, all scrambling for safety or resources. Tempers will flare as supplies run out, and the sheer volume of humanity will turn every interaction into a potential flashpoint for conflict. Disaster movies like Cloverfield provide a vivid example of how quickly a city could descend into disorder during a crisis. The panic, the crowding, and the desperation depicted in such stories are all hallmarks of what urban collapse will look like. In reality, this level of chaos could paralyze residents, making it hard to think clearly or plan the next move. Understanding the immediate impact of SHTF in the city is crucial for urban residents. The combination of overcrowding, infrastructure failure, and mass panic will create an environment where survival becomes a moment-to-moment challenge. The question isn't just what will SHTF be like in the city, it's whether you'll be ready to navigate the chaos when it arrives. As SHTF unfolds in a city, the social fabric will begin to unravel rapidly. The close quarters and sheer number of people will create a volatile environment where trust dissolves and survival instincts take over. What starts as panic and confusion will soon shift into desperation and conflict as residents realize that normal systems of order are no longer functioning. At first, there may be moments of cooperation. Neighbors might band together to share resources or look out for one another, but this will likely be short-lived. As supplies run out and tensions rise, these alliances will fracture. People who were once friendly will start viewing each other as competitors for dwindling resources. Arguments over food, water, or access to shared spaces will become common, and distrust will spread like wildfire. In the absence of law enforcement, crime will surge. Looting and theft will no longer be confined to stores and businesses. Homes will become targets too. Opportunistic individuals and organized groups will exploit the chaos, seizing whatever they can to survive or gain power. Gangs may take control of neighborhoods, enforcing their own rules and extracting resources from residents. Without anyone to stop them, the strongest or the most ruthless will dominate. Daily life will become fraught with danger. Walking down the street or venturing outside for supplies will carry significant risks, as desperate individuals or groups could attack without warning. Public spaces that were once gathering points, such as parks or squares, will become battlegrounds for survival. Even within apartment buildings or residential blocks, conflicts will arise as neighbors fight over shared utilities like water or electricity from a generator. The psychological impact of this social breakdown will be profound. City residents, accustomed to living among strangers but still feeling part of a larger community, will suddenly feel isolated despite being surrounded by people. The realization that help isn't coming and that you can trust no one will weigh heavily on the mind, creating an overwhelming sense of vulnerability. Examples from disaster stories highlight this collapse of social order. In the Purge, the breakdown of societal norms leads to lawlessness and unchecked violence, illustrating how quickly communities can disintegrate when authority disappears. Escape from New York shows a dystopian vision of a city where gangs and opportunists thrive in the absence of law, while World War Z provides glimpses of urban chaos during the early stages of collapse, particularly in its depictions of mistrust and desperation among survivors. Understanding what social breakdown will look like during SHTF in the city is essential. Trust will be scarce, alliances fragile, and danger omnipresent. The once vibrant communities of the city will transform into fragmented, hostile environments where every interaction carries a risk. The question of what will SHTF be like in the city comes down to this. When the bonds of society are gone, will you be ready to navigate a world where it's every person for themselves? When SHTF hits a city, resource scarcity will quickly become one of the most pressing and dangerous realities. Urban areas are entirely dependent on intricate supply chains for food, water, medicine, and other essentials. When those supply chains fail, the sheer number of people competing for limited resources will turn the city into a battleground for survival. Within hours of the initial crisis, grocery stores and pharmacies will be stripped bare. Panic buying will leave shelves empty, and restocking will be impossible as transportation networks grind to a halt. People who didn't stockpile in advance will find themselves scavenging for scraps, while those with supplies will face the challenge of protecting what they have. Water scarcity will escalate the crisis even further. Municipal water systems, reliant on electricity to maintain pressure and filtration, may fail within days. Access to clean drinking water will become one of the greatest challenges for urban residents. Desperate people will turn to rivers, fountains, or even water from fire hydrants, often contaminated and unsafe to drink for those who don't understand water purification. Without filtration methods, dehydration and illness will spread rapidly. Food sources will vanish just as quickly. The city's reliance on constant shipments of fresh produce, meat, and other goods means that once deliveries stop, there's no backup plan. Urban residents will scavenge abandoned stores, raid restaurants, and even loot each other's homes in search of sustenance. Perishable goods will spoil without refrigeration, leaving canned and packaged items as the only reliable options if they haven't already been taken. Medicine will also be scarce, creating a silent but deadly crisis. People reliant on prescription drugs for chronic conditions will face life-threatening situations as their supplies run out. Minor injuries or infections, easily treated under normal circumstances, could become serious or even fatal without access to proper medical care. The competition for resources will create dangerous situations. Fights over food, water, or even basic items like batteries and blankets will break out, sometimes escalating into violent confrontations. Organized groups may take control of valuable supplies, hoarding them for their own use or trading them at exorbitant costs. Bartering will replace money as the primary means of exchange, but even this carries risks, as trades could turn into traps or ambushes. The psychological impact of resource scarcity will weigh heavily on city residents. Parents will agonize over how to feed their children, rationing meals to make supplies last. The constant hunger, thirst, and exhaustion will sap people's strength and resolve, leaving them vulnerable to illness and despair. Disaster stories provide haunting glimpses into these realities. In The Road by Cormac McCarthy, the scarcity of food leads characters to desperate acts of survival, including dangerous scavenging and moral compromises. Mad Max exaggerates resource competition into dystopian chaos, where fuel and water become currencies of power. While these stories may feel extreme, they reflect the very real challenges of surviving in a world where basic necessities are no longer guaranteed. In a city during SHTF, resource scarcity won't just be about finding food and water. It will be about navigating a brutal new reality where survival depends on your ability to adapt, protect what you have, and make hard choices. The question isn't just what will SHTF be like, it's whether you'll have the resilience to endure the fight for survival. As this HTF unfolds in a city, security will quickly become one of the most pressing concerns. With law enforcement overwhelmed or entirely absent, cities will descend into lawlessness. Desperate individuals, opportunistic criminals, and organized gangs will thrive in the chaos, turning urban areas into dangerous war zones where every person must fend for themselves. Homes and businesses will be some of the first targets. Looting will escalate rapidly, beginning with stores and spreading to residential areas as people search for food, water, and other essentials. Apartments and houses, often packed close together with minimal barriers, will be particularly vulnerable. Windows, flimsy doors, and shared entryways will make it difficult to keep intruders out, leaving residents exposed to theft and violence. The density of urban environments will amplify security risks. Unlike rural or suburban areas, where space and distance can create natural defenses, cities are crowded and interconnected. Once criminals identify a resource-rich area or an unprotected building, it becomes easy to exploit. Word spreads quickly in these environments, and a single break-in can attract further trouble. Organized gangs will take advantage of the chaos, seizing control of neighborhoods and resources. These groups may establish their own rules, demanding payment or compliance in exchange for protection, or worse, actively extorting and exploiting vulnerable residents. Their presence will make entire sections of the city impassable or too dangerous to navigate, further isolating those trapped in the area. The absence of law enforcement will leave residents to fend for themselves. While some communities may attempt to band together for mutual protection, these efforts will be difficult to maintain. Trust will be scarce, and fear of betrayal or infiltration by criminals will undermine even the best-intentioned groups. For many, survival will depend on remaining inconspicuous and avoiding attention at all costs. The psychological impact of these constant security threats cannot be overstated. The simple act of stepping outside will feel like a calculated risk, and nights will be filled with anxiety as residents listen for sounds of intruders. Sleep will be elusive, and the stress of perpetual danger will wear down both mental and physical health. Disaster stories offer chilling examples of this urban collapse into violence. The Purge series vividly depicts how lawlessness takes over, turning once familiar neighborhoods into hunting grounds. Escape from New York imagines an entire city controlled by gangs, illustrating the dangers of unchecked power. Even I Am Legend touches on the risks of navigating an abandoned urban landscape filled with unseen threats. During SHTF in the city, security will be a daily struggle. The question isn't just how to protect your home. It's how to protect yourself in an environment where danger is everywhere and help is nowhere to be found. Understanding what security threats will look like during urban collapse is essential to anticipating the reality of survival in the city. What will SHTF be like? It will be a constant battle to stay one step ahead of the chaos. Surviving in a city during SHTF will not only test your physical resilience, but will also take a profound toll on your mental and emotional well-being. The combination of overcrowding, unrelenting danger, and the collapse of normal life will push even the strongest individuals to their limits. For urban residents, understanding and preparing for this psychological strain will be critical to enduring the harsh realities of societal collapse. One of the first challenges will be the loss of routine and normalcy. Cities thrive on structure. Commutes, work schedules, social outings, and predictable daily rhythms. When SHTF, all of that will vanish. The sudden absence of these routines will create a sense of disorientation, as time blurs and each day feels like an unending fight for survival. For many, this will lead to a deep sense of loss and even hopelessness. Isolation will compound the strain. While cities are packed with people, trust will be almost non existent. Friends and neighbors may become competitors or threats, forcing you to withdraw from others to protect yourself. This isolation, combined with the constant noise and chaos outside, will leave many feeling trapped, both physically and emotionally. The constant danger of living in a city during SHTF will be another heavy burden. Every outing, whether to search for water, food, or other supplies, will feel like walking into enemy territory. The stress of knowing that a wrong move could lead to violence, theft, or worse, will erode your mental health over time. At home, the fear of intrusion will keep you on edge, making it difficult to rest or feel any sense of security. For families, these psychological challenges will be even more pronounced. Parents will face the immense pressure of trying to shield their children from the worst of the crisis while grappling with their own fears. Children, in turn, may struggle to understand the new rules of survival, why they must stay quiet, avoid drawing attention, or accept a lack of familiar comforts. Managing their emotional well-being while navigating your own stress will be an uphill battle. Disaster stories often illustrate this psychological toll. I Am Legend delves deeply into the loneliness and despair of surviving alone in a city, capturing the emotional weight of isolation. Station 11 by Emily Sin. John Mandel explores the emotional aftermath of collapse, emphasizing how hope and connection can be difficult to hold onto in the face of overwhelming loss. These narratives show that surviving SHTF in a city is not just about resources or physical strength, it's also about maintaining mental resilience. To endure the psychological toll of SHTF in the city, adaptability will be essential. Finding ways to create small routines, focusing on immediate goals, and seeking moments of normalcy, like a shared meal or a quiet moment, can help ground you. Accepting the new reality, rather than dwelling on what's been lost, will allow you to move forward with a clearer mind. What will SHTF be like in the city? It will test your ability to stay focused, calm, and determined in the face of constant stress. Your mindset will be as important as your physical preparations, and maintaining hope, even in the smallest ways, may be the key to surviving the chaos. Disaster movies and books often provide vivid portrayals of societal collapse, offering insights into what SHTF might be like in a city. I've already mentioned some of these earlier in the video, but they're worth mentioning again. While obviously fictional, and in some cases wildly exaggerated, these stories are grounded in universal human experiences: panic, desperation, resilience, and survival. For urban dwellers, they serve as cautionary tales that help us understand the challenges and emotional toll of urban collapse. One of the most striking examples is Cloverfield, which captures the sheer chaos of a city under siege. Although the movie centers on a monster attack, its depiction of mass panic, overcrowding, and the breakdown of infrastructure mirrors what might happen during an urban SHTF scenario. The crowded streets, confusion, and desperate attempts to escape feel all too real for anyone living in a densely populated area. I Am Legend takes a more personal approach, exploring the loneliness and resource scarcity faced by a survivor living in an abandoned city. The protagonist navigates the psychological toll of isolation and constant vigilance while scavenging for food and supplies in a hostile urban environment. It highlights the challenges of adapting to a city that has become both a home and a trap. The Purge series offers a chilling look at lawlessness in urban settings. While exaggerated, it demonstrates how quickly communities can fracture and how violence can dominate when social norms and law enforcement vanish. The movies also emphasize the importance of situational awareness and self-reliance in environments where danger is everywhere. Books provide equally powerful lessons. In World War Z by Max Brooks, the chapters set in urban areas vividly depict the chaos of initial outbreaks and the long-term struggles of survival in cities. These narratives show how trust breaks down, and urban density turns every resource into a flashpoint for conflict. The movie based on this book also covers similar themes. Metro 2033 by Dmitry Glukhovsky explores survival in the underground tunnels of a post-apocalyptic city, demonstrating the adaptability required to endure in an inhospitable environment. Even dystopian classics like Escape from New York offer insights into the risks of urban environments during collapse. The movie imagines a city overrun by gangs and lawlessness, showcasing the importance of mobility, resourcefulness, and staying under the radar in a hostile setting. The recurring themes in these stories, scarcity, distrust, violence, and isolation, mirror the realities of what SHTF will be like in the city. They emphasize the importance of mental resilience, strategic thinking, and the ability to adapt to rapidly changing circumstances. For those interested, check out the video description for links to our Amazon list of disaster movies and fiction books curated specifically for preppers. While these examples are fictional, they can help us visualize the challenges and prepare mentally for urban survival. By reflecting on the scenarios depicted in disaster movies and books, we can better anticipate what might happen when society collapses in a densely populated environment. Understanding these lessons is a crucial step toward answering the question, what will SHTF really be like in the city? It will be chaotic, unforgiving, and demanding of every ounce of your strength and determination. When SHTF strikes a city, the experience will be starkly different from what suburban or rural residents face. The dense population, reliance on supply chains, and limited space for self-reliance will create an environment of extreme challenges. From overcrowded streets and rapid resource depletion to rising violence and the breakdown of social order, urban collapse will test every aspect of your survival skills and mental resilience. The immediate aftermath will bring chaos, as panicked residents scramble for safety and resources. Social bonds will quickly erode, leaving individuals to navigate an unpredictable and dangerous environment. Resource scarcity will become a daily struggle, with food, water, and medical supplies vanishing almost instantly. Security threats will be constant, as crime and violence dominate neighborhoods with no law enforcement to keep order. All of this will take a profound psychological toll, forcing urban dwellers to adapt to a world where trust is scarce and danger is everywhere. For those living in cities, understanding these realities is essential. This isn't about fear, it's about awareness. Knowing what to expect and mentally preparing for the challenges ahead can make all the difference when the systems that keep your city running suddenly fail. Whether it's the chaos of Cloverfield, the isolation of I Am Legend, or the lawlessness of the Purge, disaster stories remind us of what survival might look like in an urban collapse. If you found this breakdown helpful, check out the video description for links to our curated Amazon list of disaster movies and fiction books for preppers, offering more insights into survival scenarios. Be sure to like and share this video to help others prepare, and subscribe for more practical prepping and survival insights. What will SHTF really be like in the city? It will be chaotic, unpredictable, and unforgiving. But with preparation, awareness, and resilience, you can navigate the challenges and come out stronger on the other side. Thanks for watching. Stay prepared, stay safe, and we'll see you in the next video.